Hey, it's Alive a Day for the month of May, and tonight we are making tabouli salad. Now, to make tabouli salad, one of the most important ingredients is a whole bunch of herbs. So I want to show you what I currently have in my collection of herbs. Very important is mint. I use mint. It's very good for settling your stomach, and it also smells great. And I use this in my smoothies. I use this in my I make an infusion. So what I do is I put cucumbers, lemon, and a little bit of mint in my water, and it flavors my water, and it adds a little quality to my water that's refreshing and enjoyable. And so I use mint in a lot of things for this particular recipe. We are going to be using mint. The other thing that I have in my house right now is Thai basil. Thai basil is absolutely wonderful. Super perfumey. It has these gorgeous purple flowers, and normally it's served as an accoutrement to pho. That's why it's sold in the Vietnamese markets. And pho is a traditional soup that is a very flavorful broth, and this just kind of goes on top of it. But I also use this for Italian cooking, and I also use this for bruschetta if my basil isn't doing so hot. And I happen to like this stuff. It's really good. You can make pesto with it if you really want to. When these herbs get a little on the tired side, one of the things that you can do is you can treat your herbs like flowers, and you just cut off the bottom and you put them in a little bit of water, and they last a little bit better than if you just throw them in your fridge. Another herb that we're going to be using for this particular recipe tonight is good old curly parsley. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with curly parsley, there's a couple of different kinds of parsley. There's curly parsley, there's flat leaf parsley, and there's Italian parsley. Italian parsley and flat leaf parsley are kind of the same thing. It just depends on what you're named. But this is called curly parsley because, look, it's curly. It's curly. Not like my hair. It's curly. So that's curly parsley, and we're going to be using that in tonight's recipe. We're also going to use the juice from a couple of lemons. We're going to use a really good olive oil. We're going to use tomatoes, and today I have a couple of different kinds of tomatoes to show you. These are tomatoes on the vine. When you buy tomatoes on the vine, always look and make sure that the vine looks like it's happy. If it's totally dead and dried up, then your tomatoes are going to be dead and dried up. So you don't want that. So look for them that have a lot of green to them, and the tomatoes don't pop off when you pick up the stem, because if they pop off when you pick up the stem, then they're overly ripe and not good. So another thing that we're going to use, another type of tomato, is aroma tomato. And those are the two kind of tomatoes that I have most often in my house, is on the vine or aromas, just simply because I love the flavor, and they're less GMO'd. So the flavor's better, and it kind of tastes like good. And if you're lucky enough to have a farmer's market or a friend who has fresh tomatoes, then by golly, get those fresh tomatoes, because fresh tomatoes versus store-bought tomatoes are exponentially different. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make the dressing. Actually, we've already cooked the tabouli. Tabouli is actually wheat, and it looks like this, and it comes in a bag. And this particular stuff I picked up in Austin the last time I went on a play date with Carmen May. And what I did was I took a half a cup of the dried, I cooked it in 1 cup of water, and this is what I ended up with. So that's a lot. And normally when you're doing grains, that's exactly what you want. You want a 2-to-1 ratio. So if it's a half a cup, it's going to be a cup. If it's 1 cup, it's going to be 2 cups. And that pretty well works across the board for all grains. The other thing that we're going to need is we're going to need a couple of English cucumbers. We're going to need a little bit of garlic. And we're going to need a penny toy. The infusion blender. This is a good thing to have. And by the way, if you know anyone who's having a baby, buy them one of these, because there's going to come a point where the baby is not going to be interested in baby food, and they're going to want your food. So you just take that puppy out, you go zip, you blend that puppy up, and the baby's like, oh yeah, I'm having your food, I'm a happy baby. So, you know, so like, I know that sounds like a completely bizarre gift to give a mom, but trust me, The babies love it. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get out our good old garlic press. And you remember we played with this guy the other night. I have 2 cloves of garlic here. I'm going to shove them all in there. And we're going to, well, I guess we're going to do 2 doses. So remember, the plunger needs to be in place, and we're going to squeeze. And boom. Now, where'd my little toy go? Where'd my toy go? Oh, I have lost my toy. Anyways, here it is. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm going to be doing a Pampered Chef party for my birthday. My birthday is June 11th. My party is from the 4th through the 9th. And Miss Julie, who is my Pampered Chef consultant, sent me this fun little chingadera, which is basically a scraper. So I'm going to use that, and I am going to scrape off my garlic. And I'm going to put it in a bowl that I'm going to be using with my immersion blender to make the dressing that's going to go on the tabbouleh salad. So I want a little more garlic because I love garlic, and I'm not going to say no. So I'm throwing the rest of the garlic in there, and I'm going to smush. Smush, smush, smush. Okay, and I'm getting my little scraper guy, and I'm putting that in there. Now, they said, you know, the recipe that I was reading said that, you know, you can do this in your blender, you can do it in your food processor, you can do it however you want to do it. I don't care. I like my immersion blender, and I don't get to use it very often. So then you're going to do a generous pour of olive oil. So I would say like maybe about 1/3 cup. So you probably notice I don't measure because I don't like to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little noise. I'm going to get out my immersion blender, and I'm just going to blend these guys just a little bit. So as you can see, it's getting a little frothy in there. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do my lemons. Now when you do lemons, what you want to do is you want to roll them. You can either roll them on your cutting board, or you can roll them between your hands, or you can squeeze them. And what that does is it breaks down the fibers inside of the lemon, and it helps you squeeze them and juice them better. So I'm going to cut them in half. And there's a couple of ways you can juice. You can juice. What I like to do is I like to take a measuring cup and a strainer because I hate picking out seeds. And you can use one of these guys and you can just squeeze. Or you can use this and you can just go in there, and then all of the seeds get captured and you don't have to worry about them ending up in your final product. So I'm squeezing. And I'm pulping, and I'm a-chucking. So we got one more lemon, and I'm just giving these guys a good squeeze. My hands are going to smell amazing when I'm done because I'm going to be cutting up mint and parsley and lemon. So it's all going to be super, super yummy. So we're cutting this puppy in half, and we're also going to give this one another little squeezy. And we're going to take care of that. Boom, 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 boom. You know, I got to figure out a way so that I can move my camera down just a little bit so you can all see what I'm doing. And then last but not least, the other half of the lemon. So we're gonna just kind of go through that guy. And so, as you can see, my little strainer guy has caught all the seeds. So I'm just gonna dump that. You can compost that if you want to. And so I have basically 1/4 cup of lemon juice. So we're going to get our immersion blender on again, and we're going to get it going, and we're going to slowly add the lemon juice. Now we're getting a little bit of an emulsion going, and remember we talked about mayonnaise the other day? We talked about emulsions. Now the last thing we're going to do is we're going to add some mint. So I have some fresh mint here, and since this is all going to get chopped up by the blender, I'm just going to pick off just a few leaves. And we're going to give them little bit of a chop, and then we're going to throw them in there and blend them up. So let me just give them a little bit of a chop, just so that the blender doesn't have to work so hard in turning these into super, super fine bits. So there we go. There's our mint. And now we are going to blend some more. Blend, blend, blend. Now I want a little more olive oil because my blender is struggling just a little bit to chop this all super fine. So I'm just going to add a little more olive oil. And remember, your tomatoes are going to add liquid to your salad as well as your cucumbers. So just one little Perfect. All right. So as you can see, we have a nice little emulsion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. And a little bit of salt. And I'm going to give it a little stir. I'm going to give it a little taste. That's nice. It's very, very garlicky. A little bit more salt and pepper. That feels good to me. And the last thing I want to add is, remember, when you've got an acid, you got to have a little bit of sugar. Now, when it comes to sugar, the pure white stuff, I only use that for hummingbird food. This is brown raw sugar, I guess. It's turbana. So that's the kind of sugar that I like to use for all of my cooking. So I'm going to stir this up again, give it one last taste before we throw it on and adjust the seasoning. Yep, that's good. That's good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add this to our tabouli, or our bulgur wheat, depending on how you look at things. And we're going to give that a quick stir. And we're going to toss those guys all together. Now the next thing that we're going to add is our cucumber and our tomato. So I've got 2 Persian cucumbers. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off the ends. Now the interesting thing about cucumbers, a lot of people don't know this, is that they're belong to a family of vegetables that can be spectacularly wonderful and delicious, or be super, super bitter. So I always taste a cucumber before I put it in food. This is a really tasty cucumber. I made the mistake once. I was doing a formal tea when I was making cucumber sandwiches, and I didn't taste my cucumbers, and they were bad. They were super, super, super bitter, and they were incredibly awful. And all of my guests were like, oh, we don't like the cucumber sandwiches. And I am well known for my cucumber sandwiches. So for them to be awful, they had to be really, really awful. And I tasted like, oh my God, these are horrible. And it was because I had a bad cucumber. So always taste your cucumber before you put it in your salads, because you never know. Because once you get a bad cucumber, you will never forget a bad cucumber, and you will always taste your cucumbers before you put them in your salad. So, now, another wives' tale, and whether or not this is true, is something that my mom used to do, and I used to think it was the weirdest thing. She'd cut off the ends of the cucumber, and then she would rub the cucumber like that. And she said that it would take the bitterness away. And I used to be all, what the hell? You know, until I said, I got a bad cucumber, and I said, you know what? I failed. I didn't do what my mommy told me. Also a good cucumber. The thing that I like about the Persian cucumbers, they're mini English cucumbers. And the thing that I like about them is that you can eat them skin and all. And the skin of vegetables actually have a whole lot of nutrients that are really, really good for you. And it has fiber that's really good for your belly and all kinds of good stuff. And so when you can get away with not skinning things, it's actually better for you. But, so I like these little guys, unpeeled. The big fat cucumbers, those always have to be peeled because they're like gross. So, and they're bitter, and I've never liked a big cucumber. So, anyways, so I'm going to cut up a couple of tomatoes. I'm going to do one of each. I'm going to use one of the hothouse on the vine, and I'm going to use one of the Romas. Because I personally like a lot of tomatoes in, I like a lot of tomatoes in my tabbouleh. So, hold on just a second. And cut. And we're just doing a really rough dice. If I was doing something a little bit more formal, I probably would be a lot more careful and making it all pristine and making everything the exact same size. But hey, this is just supper. So I'm just going to throw it in there and make it yummy. So, and we've got the other half of the tomato. We're going to go for that. And we're going to cut. Okay, I'm going to throw that in there. And then we're going to do the bigger tomato. One of the things that I love to do with these hothouse tomatoes is I make, your deli usually has either a pepper jack or a pesto or some kind of flavored cheese. I like to get that cheese, and what I do is I make a piece of toast. I put the tomatoes thin sliced on top of the toast, and then I put it under the broiler with a little bit of mustard underneath the tomato, and that is really good. Now that's another version of maters on toast with cheese, but it's not bruschetta. It's just tomatoes, tomato toast. It makes me laugh that all of these fast food restaurants are now making like avocado toast and stuff. I just think it's hysterical. I'm like, here, let's jump on the avocado toast bandwagon, you know. So anyway, so we're getting a ton of tomatoes in this here salad, which is totally fine with me because I love tomatoes. And we're gonna just slice up this last half, and then we're gonna add the parsley, and we're gonna be done with our tabbouleh as soon as we test the flavors and make sure that everything tastes the way that we expect it to taste. So as you can see, I've got a ton of vegetables and my tabbouleh, and we're gonna give them a good toss. So if you're trying to eat more whole grains, this is a really good way to get your whole grains in. You can also make this salad, believe it or not, with barley. And it's also very, very tasty when you make it with barley. So the last ingredient that we need is our parsley. So I have some parsley. Now, if you've never stemmed parsley, all you do is you use your fingernail and you pull off the little heads of the parsley. Now you can save these stems and use them in vegetable broth, or you can just compost them, or feed them to your guinea pigs if you have guinea pigs, or if you have chickens, or if you have rabbits. They love parsley stems. They actually get really super excited when they're around parsley stems. And you know, you do what you do, whatever makes you happy. whatever's going on in your house. So, but I don't know. I know what goes on in my house, and I don't have anything that eats parsley. So here we have the parsley bits. So that's like a good handful. And we're just going to chop those super fine. And because I already have it cleaned and ready to go, I'm actually going to chiffonade some extra mint. And remember, we were talking about chiffonade yesterday, where you take, well, when we did the bruschetta, you line it all up, and then you curl it up, and then you cut it into thin strips. So we're going to cut into thin strips. And then we're going to chop those super fine. And then we're going to add that to our tabouli salad. We're going to give it a quick toss. So you see all those lovely greens all getting in there. Oh, my hair is making me nuts. I know, I'm going to cut it all off. My birthday's coming. Makeover time. And then we're just going to put that in there. And we're going to give it a little bit of a taste. A little more salt, a little more pepper. And that is the wonderful world of hair in your face tabouli salad. So I hope you enjoyed this recipe. This is what it looks like all finished, and it is super good for you and super tasty and very easy to make, in my opinion. You know, you could be sitting there going, oh my God, that seems so complicated. But it's not. It's really, really easy. Because I wouldn't teach you anything that was complicated, because then you'd get frustrated and you wouldn't want to cook. And we want you to cook because we want you to impress your friends, and we want your friends to be all like, oh my God, I'm going over to such and such's house on Friday. I love how she cooks. Yeah. So anyways, so until next time, don't forget, I love you, and keep on doing what you're doing. Alrighty, bye-bye.